Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Max AC channel. For this month's theme, we will be doing our third round of AniMay, where we'll be making 4 more recipes inspired by 4 different animated pieces of entertainment. For our last episode, this round we will be visiting the City of Lumiere, where we'll be making some baguettes from Clair Obscur Expedition 33. For this recipe, you will need some poolish, which you can make with 3.5 grams or half a packet of instant or active dry yeast, or 1 tablespoon of healthy sourdough starter if you have some, 120 grams or half a cup of room temperature water or warm water if using active dry yeast, and 120 grams or 1 cup of bread or all-purpose flour. Then for the rest of the dough, you will need another 3.5 grams or half a packet of instant or active dry yeast, 240 grams or 1 cup more of room temperature or warm water as needed, 420 grams or 3.5 cups more of bread or all-purpose flour, and 12 grams or 2 teaspoons of salt. This will make about 3 to 4 baguettes depending on how big you make them, so just as needed. First we'll prepare the poolish, so in a mixing bowl, add in your 120 grams of water, and mix in your starter or 3.5 grams of yeast, letting it rest for 10 to 15 minutes in the warm water to activate it if using active dry yeast. Then once your yeast is bubbling and active, or if you're using instant yeast or sourdough starter, mix this with your 120 grams of flour until everything is well combined. Then cover this with a towel and let this proof on the counter for at least 45 minutes up to 12 hours or 12 to 24 hours in the fridge. Once your poolish has risen, drop back down and is now covered in bubbles, it is ready to be mixed with the rest of the ingredients. So in a large mixing bowl, add the poolish along with the rest of the yeast, water, flour, and salt, and fully mix all of the dough using a whisk or your hands until all of the flour is mixed together. You can of course skip making the poolish and just mix everything together all at once if you're short on time, but this extra step does help to impart a ton of delicious flavor. Then once your dough is ready, place it back into the bowl, cover this with a damp towel, and let this rest for an hour or two. During this time, while not strictly necessary, I recommend every 30 minutes to stretch and fold the dough by grabbing a corner of the dough and pulling it up to the center until you've stretched all the parts of the dough. This step will help to develop more gluten without overworking the dough, increasing the total volume and height of your bread when it bakes. So if you have the time, I recommend doing this 4 times or every 30 minutes during this 2-hour period. Even if you can only do the stretching and folding once or twice, your dough will still benefit from the extra gluten development. Then after a couple of hours, once you're ready to perform the bulk fermentation, or in French, the pointage, cover the bowl with a towel and let it rise at room temperature about 2 to 4 hours, or in the fridge for 6 to 8 hours. The dough will be ready when it has about doubled in volume, which might be a bit sooner than you're planning if you live in a warm, humid environment, so just keep an eye out to prevent it from overproofing. But once the dough is ready, onto a lightly floured surface, scoop out your dough from the bowl, placing it bottom side up, and divide the dough into 3 or 4 pieces. Then gently shape each piece of dough into a cylindrical or batard shape by folding the top of the dough down to the center, pressing it gently with your fingers. And then make another fold in the same direction. If the dough is sticky, dust it lightly with the flour and continue to gently fold the dough. If you have a bench scraper, you can use this to push the dough underneath, pulling the dough to create some tension, making a nice smooth surface across the entire dough. Then once all of your dough is shaped, let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes while we prepare the couche. For the couche, grab a dry cloth towel and lightly dust it with some flour to keep the dough from sticking to the towel. And then for each piece of dough, place it seam side up, giving it a tap to pop any large fermentation bubbles, and then fold the top down about a third of the way, sealing the edges with your fingers. And then in the same direction, fold the top down again with your hands, and then roll your dough into its final shape, about 8 to 12 inches or so, tapering the edges as desired. Then place your dough onto your floured couche and cover them, letting them rest for an hour or so, depending on how much crumb you prefer. While we wait, we'll prepare the oven, so place a baking stone or flat tray in your oven and place another tray on the bottom to use for your steam bath, and preheat your oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit. Once your oven is done preheating and your dough has finished proofing, carefully transfer your dough to a piece of parchment paper on top of a cutting board, dust it with some flour if you wish, and then using a sharp knife or razor blade, add some shallow 1/4 to 1/2 inch cuts to score the dough with 3 parallel lines at a slight 45-degree angle, with the lines slightly overlapping by 1/3 of the length. Then boil some water, and once that's ready, transfer your bread and parchment paper onto your baking stone, and then pour your boiled water onto the bottom tray and quickly close your oven and bake this for 15 minutes. Then once your bread is baked, Open your oven to release any steam that's still lingering, and then close your oven again and let it bake for another 3 to 5 minutes to develop a nice crust. Then, once your bread is done, remove it from the oven and let it cool, and with that, your baguette is ready to eat. When I was planning out recipes for this month, I was really excited to make a recipe for one of my most anticipated games this year. But when I was playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I couldn't find any food in the game other than giant pieces of meat for some reason, so I was nervous that there wasn't going to be anything for me to make. But in fact, the recipe was staring me right in the face, quite literally. The baguette is the quintessential French food, so it's no surprise that Sanfal Interactive, a French video game studio, would include it in their game set in a fantasy version of Belle Epoque France. Specifically, the baguette is found in the game nestled safely on the back of the appropriately named Baguette outfit that every character has access to, usually by defeating a challenging mime enemy. And although this baguette has no purpose other than looking visually nice, I have heard that one might be able to get a functional one by buying it from the boulangerie in Lumiere. Speaking of course, it certainly might be easier and faster to buy a baguette from your local boulangerie or bakery, but like with all of our other bread recipes, there's nothing like freshly baked homemade bread. Plus, with you in control of the ingredients, you are able to adjust your bread to your liking, such as proofing it for less or more time, depending on how many large open holes you want in your bread. I got a bit distracted when making this, and I actually overproofed my dough a bit during the pointage, so my bread didn't stretch and expand as much as I would have preferred in the second rise, and it didn't develop as much crumb as I normally like, but the bread did still taste very delicious. So if you plan on making this recipe and you don't succeed right away, just like with the challenging game it comes from, just keep trying it again and again, and eventually you'll be successful.
Let's go.
Speaking of the game, in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, you play as members of Expedition 33, who set out to destroy the Paintress, a being causing the yearly gommage, slowly erasing everyone in the world at or above a certain age. This turn-based RPG is honestly already one of my favorite games of all time, because of its amazing story and unique blend of real-time parrying and deep strategic turn-based combat, in addition to the amazing music, and about a million other things as well. We are actually playing through the game for the variety show, but we are taking a bit of a break since we just finished Act 1, though we will be heading back to the game in a few weeks, so if you're watching this video when it has come out, you have plenty of time to catch up before we delve into Act 2 and learn even more secrets and revelations about the Paintress and the members of Expedition 33. But back to the recipe, for any leftovers, they of course won't be as good as they would be fresh, but you may leave them out on the counter for a few days, or you can wrap them in plastic wrap and aluminum foil and freeze them for up to 3 months, and they should stay relatively fresh. All you then have to do is defrost them in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 to 8 minutes to bring them back to being warmed and toasty. But regardless of if you are attempting to take down the Paintress, or if you just want to make some yummy food, this delicious recipe will be a great addition to any meal, or a great snack to share with those who come after. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. In the comments below, let me know how it went if you decided to make it. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you want me to make next. Like this video, share with your friends and family, and subscribe to or follow this channel for more episodes of the Max AC channel. And remember, if you want to stay cool in the kitchen, turn your AC to the max and watch the Max AC channel.